To wrap up IndieApril, I wanted to do a review and discussion of the indie steampunk novella of Cogs Conjuring by Patrick Dugan. I also want to do a sort of discussion of the indie marketplace. Sandy says read, and welcome to the channel. Today we are doing a review and discussion of Cogs Conjuring. This is a steampunk novella. It is published by the author, Patrick Dugan. That makes it perfect for our IndieApril wrap-up and discussion of some of the indie offerings that are going on out there in the marketplace. We're going to talk a little bit, chat a little bit about indie publishing, indie stuff. Let's start by acknowledging IndieApril. I'm doing this at the end of IndieApril, and I don't know if I will actually have this uploaded until May, but that's all right, because you guys, indie authors and indie artists, indie creatives are out there hustling as hard as they can all year long. Indie bookstores are open all year long. So this is evergreen content for you guys. I want you to, when you see this, think about some of the indie creatives that you know. And remember, they're not just selling their wares during the month of April. Although I love the fact that IndieApril is a thing. It's been celebrated here on YouTube at least since 2023. I did see some videos that were celebrating IndieApril from 2023. That was their timestamp. Now, out on the X platform, you guys, we're going to talk a little bit about that. On the X platform, there are folks who no longer use the hashtag IndieApril. We're not supposed to use hashtags over there anymore, which just, it's difficult for me to conform. It's difficult for me to conform to anything, but it's difficult for me to conform to the new stuff and not use hashtags. The hashtag IndieApril has been around for a couple of years, okay? And I think it's a cool, wonderful thing. I think it is nifty to have a way for indie artists and indie creatives and indie writers to sort of congeal, to kind of get together around a common theme for a month and say, hey, I am in this community. Please pay attention to the fact that this community exists. I like that. I like the fact that we're giving some love to that community, not just because I'm in that community, but also because I know so many authors in that community who have good stories, good products for us to pay attention to. Hence this channel paying attention to it. All right. The weird thing is, there are authors out there who ask the question, am I an indie author if I've been traditionally published by an indie publishing house? I'm going to use Seventh Star Press as an example because Seventh Star Press is the publishing house that currently has my Choices series. Can you see this over here on the shelf? My Choices Meant for Gods, Choices Meant for Kings, and Choices Meant for All. Those three are now published by Seventh Star Press. You guys probably know the story. Archibooks Publishing, which we're going to bring up a couple times here. Archibooks Publishing originally published those back in 2007, 2009, and 2015. Great. They closed their doors in 2019. I gotta remember, at the end of 2019, Archibooks Publishing closed their doors, and all of us authors got the rights back to our works. And we needed to find new publishers for that stuff or self-publish it, whatever we wanted to do. I'm going to be talking about a fellow Archibooks family author, Tina Murray, in this video as well, which is why it's important to remember Archibooks. Okay, so I did find a friendly publisher in Seventh Star Press. I went to Steven Zimmer and said, hey, I've got this, my series, and I'm doing some work on it. May I submit that to you? Would you be interested in republishing this? And yes, they were interested in looking at, the new and revised and republishing it for me. Yay, that is wonderful. Now, the thing is, they are a smaller publishing house. They're an indie publishing outfit. They don't have huge distribution, but it is traditional publishing. I didn't have to pay anything for that to happen. And that's one of the definitions of an indie publishing. Indie publishing. That's one of the definitions of it. You don't have to pay anything for it to happen as the author, but it's a smaller publishing house. It's not one of the big 5 traditional publishing. Is that making sense? Are you tracking with me here? Okay, now another definition of indie publishing is doing it yourself as the author, going to editors out there in the field and paying the editor to edit your work, going out there to illustrators in the field and paying someone to in the industry and paying them to design a cover for you, going out there to folks in the field who can help you with formatting, going out there to people who can help you set it up and get the thing done, and then publishing it yourself. I'm not talking about vanity presses yet. We'll talk about those for a second, but I'm talking about doing it yourself, publishing it yourself. I have done that. I have done that too. So I call myself a hybrid author. It's a little bit weird as well, putting another term into the mix here. I call myself a hybrid author because I have been traditionally published by Archibooks Publishing and Seventh Star Press and Hydra Publications and Dragon Soul Press and Nightwolf Publishing and Faybreak Books. Is that all of them? And that's my fiction stuff. Okay. Don't worry about my day job. So I have been published by traditional means. I have also done my own thing. I have published on my own under my own imprint, Sandy's imprint. Okay. So I've done that both ways, and both have their benefits, both have their pros, both have their cons. Okay. It is what it is. And that's indie publishing to me. And that's indie publishing to a lot of folks in the industry, a lot of authors that you talk to, publishers that you talk to, they will tell you that's what indie publishing is. That's what it is. You're an indie author if you are published by an independent publishing house. If you're published on your own, you're considered indie. And that's wonderful. That's amazing. The indie community is pretty cool. Most of the people in the indie community are willing to help one another, are excited to help one another. We do believe in the concept that all boats rise with a rising tide. So when you get a group of indie published authors together, we want to help one another. We want to I want to talk about Tina's books, which I'm going to do in a second. I want to talk about Patrick's books, which I'm going to do in a second. I want to talk about other authors' books because I want to see them succeed. I know the pain and the sweat and the tears and the angst that we go through. I know it because I've experienced it. I know what these other authors have experienced, and I want to see them succeed because I know what they've been through, and I want to see them succeed. And in the indie community, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, but I'm telling you guys, in the indie community, there are so many authors who get it, who understand it, and who want to help each other succeed. Okay, so here's the thing. I mentioned a second ago, there are some authors out there on platforms like X or Facebook or Threads who are asking, well, am I an indie author? What is indie? What is being indie? They're asking the questions. Some of them are genuinely asking the questions. Some of them are asking for engagement farming, right? You do. But they're asking because it is so ill-defined when you're first coming in, when you're first getting started, and someone says, oh, you're indie published. You may think, well, no, I'm not indie published. I'm with a traditional publishing house. No, let's talk about what a traditional publishing house is. And I'm saying this because I asked Tina when her 4th book is coming out, because I wanted to mention it here on the channel. I was under the impression that it would be out in April. Her publisher had, at one point, had mentioned that it might be out in April. So we were thinking April. I wanted to bring it to you here on the channel and talk about it, but it won't be out until May. And when I asked her if I could talk about it for IndieApril, her response back was, did I write down what she said? Yeah. She goes, it's not an indie, though. It will be published by Speaking Volumes. And I thought, wow, isn't that intriguing that my friend who has been in this business as long as I have is making that comment? It's not an indie, though. It is being published by a traditional publisher. Speaking Volumes is the press that is printing this book for her, that is publishing this book for her, that has editors in-house, that has edited this book and that is preparing it and bringing it to the marketplace. I don't want to slight that in any way. What I'm trying to say is, it is a real and a legitimate publishing house. They are publishing many authors. They have editors in-house that can edit the manuscripts that are sent in. Okay, they're not charging their authors to do this work. They're a legitimate publishing company. It's a real thing. It's a traditional small publishing house. So it is traditional publishing, but it's considered an independent publishing operation. If that makes sense. Does that make sense? Okay. Anyway, I'm talking about it during IndieApril because the independent publishing arena gives authors freedom. It gives us so much more. Oh, it gives us so much more room to do more with genres, to do more with tropes, to do more with our storylines than what the big five traditional publishing would allow. Now, let me see if I made a note. Still choking to death. Let me see if I made a note. Yeah, okay, here we go. Smaller independent publishing houses usually don't chase trends quite the way the big five do. And I made a note here about a photo or a video that was circulating out there on the interwebs earlier in the month, maybe even back in March. Someone had posted on X a video of some shelves at a bookstore. The shelves were lined with fantasy that he was not interested in. It was fantasy that was geared towards someone other than him. He was not the target any longer. And he was bemoaning the fact that there was nothing for him to read in the fantasy section. And I piped up and said, hey, that's okay, because there's an entire indie community that's not following those trends. Those book covers that you're seeing and you're not excited by, you can ignore if you're not excited by them. Please step into the indie community where there are thousands of authors who are offering fantasy works, speculative fiction works, paranormal works, sci-fi works. Check us out, because we're not following those trends that you're seeing there on those shelves. If those shelves don't have what you want, please step into the indie community. Because you guys, here in the indie community, we're allowed much more freedom than if we are pigeonholing ourselves into what the literary agents are after to sell to the editors and the marketing departments at those big five companies. Does that make sense? Are you tracking with me here? There are certain trends that they know will sell to the larger marketplace in, what year are we in now? 2025, that they know will sell in 2026 and in 2027. So right now they're acquiring manuscripts for 2027 and 2028, and they think they know what that trend is going to be. They probably do know what the trend is going to be. They have marketing teams that research this stuff, right? Okay, so they're pinpointing what they want for those years and those releases. That they're getting that stuff in the pipeline. They're actually thinking a little further out than that, but there they are. That's what they're doing. Okay, here in the indie marketplace, we're releasing stuff much more quickly. We're releasing stuff. We're a little bit more nimble. We can be more nimble because we don't have the same constraints that those larger publishing houses have. I have gotten on a soapbox, you guys. I'm rambling a little bit. The whole point of this is to say that here in the indie writing community, we can explore different tropes. We can explore different storylines. Whatever the characters are telling us in our head, we can go ahead and play with it. And we can be as creative as we want to be. We don't have to write to market unless we want to. We don't have to follow the exact thing. We don't have to be Hunger Games unless we want to be Hunger Games. We don't have to be the next. I'm going to leave it at that. Okay, we don't have to follow trend X unless we want to follow trend X. We can do some weird, crazy spin on trend X if we want to. Trend X, trend Y, trend Z. All right. Okay. Next. Oh, what did I write? In indie and self-pubbed circles, we can create outside of the bubble. Yeah, there you go. It's like a bubble that they work in. And I'm not saying that's bad. You guys, those things are trends for a reason. There are people who want to read those trends, who love the tropes and the trends that are being explored. There's a reason why those things sell. Okay? People want to read it. There are other people, or those same people, who would like to read something new and different and crazy. Okay? Patrick Dugan's Watchers of Astaria is one of the examples that steps outside of the current trend or outside of the current bubble. Let me tell you how and why. The current trend or the current bubble that the TikToker or the poster on X was complaining about was all of those titles that he was seeing on the shelves were strong feminine characters who were a little bit like sarcastic characters. Okay. My term, not his. So the sarcastic character is the one that this fellow wasn't wanting to read about. He wasn't wanting the strong female character. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. Some of us, I do enjoy reading the strong female character. I write strong female characters. They're not sarcastic, but they are strong female characters. Patrick Dugan has a strong male character. His character, Quinn, in the prequel book, Fate and Flux, Quinn starts out kind of whiny. Think Luke Skywalker in the first movie. Okay, kind of whiny, and you wonder, why are we going to root for this guy? Well, because he goes on a character arc and he becomes something pretty cool. Okay, he goes on a character arc, and in the first book of the series, book 1 of the Watchers of Astaria, Quinn is coming into his own, and he's starting to learn how to use his magic, and he's starting to take some ownership of what he has to do. Okay, that's not a strong female lead. It's a strong male lead. And it's not just a strong male lead, it's a strong male who started out like a whiny kid who's growing into his arc. That's outside of the current bubble. And I liked it. It's well done. Let's see what I wrote. Barbara Evers, she has a series, the Watchers of Manaya series. It's a trilogy. Her trilogy is fantasy. It's kind of epic, high fantasy. She doesn't have dragons in it. She has giraffes in it. You can't get further outside of the fantasy bubble than having telepathic giraffes. It works. It's great. Okay. But tell me, who in that big 5 conglomerate would have taken a chance on telepathic giraffes? Who? What agent would have said, oh, telepathic giraffes, love it, let's do it? Who would have taken that chance? I don't know. So she is in indie publishing circles. Her first publisher was an independent publishing house. They're not huge, but it was traditionally publishing her trilogy. Okay? All right. And then we have Tina Murray's Starlight on the Gulf series, which we're going to talk about here as well. Let's dive into her story for just a minute. We set these aside. Okay, so Tina Murray was at Archibooks Publishing with me right in the early days in 2008. I think, hang on, let me look and see. I think that hers was first published in 2008. You guys, I should have written that down before I started doing this, right? Hold, please. Okay, A Chance to Say Yes, copyright 2008 by Tina Murray, PhD. Yep, okay. A Chance to Say Yes is the first book in her Starlight on the Gulf series. It features Heston Deming as her main character. And then Poppy is also one of the main characters. But Heston Deming, he's a movie star, and he's kind of a middle-aged movie star, okay? I want you to tell me how many romance novels, contemporary romance novels out there right now are focused on the man as the main character. How many romance series out there have a dynasty that focuses on a flawed man as the main character, going through his life, showing his children growing up and having their flaws and problems? How many stories are doing that right now? I'm sure there are some, but it is outside of that bubble. If you think about it, so many romance novels, contemporary romance novels, focus on the girl. They focus on the woman because that's romance, right? But Tina stepped outside of that bubble just a little bit. Yes, she's got, Poppy. Yes, Poppy is in the story, and we do see things from Poppy's point of view. It's very well done from Poppy's point of view, but so much of it is also from Heston's point of view. Heston Deming. He's a hot and handsome movie star, okay? Now, Tina was with Arca Books, and when Arca Books closed their doors in 2019, she did have to find a new publisher, and she did. Now, I do have A Chance to Say Yes in hardcover. I have A Big Fan of Yours, which is the third book in paperback. I couldn't find the one in the middle. I couldn't find A Wild Dream of Love. I couldn't find that one. It has, its original cover has an island shaped like a heart on the front cover. I couldn't find it. I don't know where it is on my shelf. You would think that I would have the three of them together on the shelf. That would just make sense, right? But you guys, I don't know. Hang on. Set that right there. So she needed to, when Arca Books closed their doors, she needed to find a new publisher, and she did. She found a new publisher in Speaking Volumes, which is a traditional publisher down in Naples, Florida. So now she has new covers on her trilogy, her series. We have A Chance to Say Yes. Let me get that without the glare. Isn't that not? Look at that. So now you can see, you can see there's sun and surf and these two, frolicking on the beach. You get the feel of the beach and the Gulf, right? But now it is Heston Deming, book 1. So now we're really focusing on Heston. This is Heston's story. We've got Heston Deming, book 1. And then A Wild Dream of Love by Tina Murray. We're still in the water. We still got that Gulf thing going on. But instead of calling it the Gulf series, it is still Heston Deming, book 2. All right, we're leaning heavily into Heston. And then A Big Fan of Yours. You can see the cover for that one. A Big Fan of Yours, Tina Murray. And it's Heston Deming, book 3. Now, book 4 is, book 4 is going to be called A Wake of Starlight. And I'm looking forward to that one coming out in May. So that will be coming out in May from Speaking Volumes down in Naples, Florida. But it'll be available everywhere. It'll be on Amazon, all the places, wherever fine books are sold. All right. What else do we need to talk about with those stepping out of the bubble? Hold on. I did want to mention some other indie publishing houses that are kind of in this orbit, you might say. There's Dragon Soul Press. I mentioned them a little bit ago. They are also down here in Florida. I forget what city they're in. Could have looked that up. They take in manuscripts from authors. They don't expect authors to pay anything for this. And they also do a lot of anthologies. And the Dragon Legends anthology is the one that I got involved in, and that's how I found Dragon Soul Press. Is I discovered that they had this anthology, and there was a call for short stories to go in it. I'm like, ooh, I'm intrigued. So I sent them Dragon Lessons, which is published now in this anthology. Yay! There's that one. They have a call for short stories almost all the time. If you go to the Dragon Soul Press website, there is almost always a call for an anthology. There's almost always an anthology open for short stories to be submitted. Yeah, they've got one right now for Christmas time. I saw on their site. There's not enough hours in the day, you guys. Not enough hours in the day. Okay, so other smaller and independent publishing houses in the area, in this region, Hydra Publications in Louisville. They're listed on their website as a small press publisher. There is Seventh Star Press, which I mentioned, has my trilogy now. They're in Lexington, Kentucky. They are a small press publisher. Now, they are not currently open for submissions. They've got enough going on right now. They put together the Imaginarium convention, so they're just a little bit busy at the moment. Then there's Dragon Soul Press. They're a traditional publisher. It's listed on their site, a traditional publisher. So they're always having open calls for anthologies. Did I list any others? I guess not. The Speaking Volumes publishing house, I looked on their website and they list themselves a traditional publisher, and they are always taking submissions. They have a list of the genres and types of manuscripts that they're looking for or that they're always accepting. These publishing houses don't require you to have an agent to get in the door. You can get your foot in the door without going through the querying process. There are some independent publishing houses, I think Orbit, where you must have an agent assist you. You must have the agent query the editors. The agent is your liaison, your go-between. Any big 5 publishing house, your agent has to approach the editors. Your agent is your liaison. But in independent publishing, you don't have to rely on someone who's going to take part of your commission, who's going to take part of your money. Authors are the last ones to get paid anyway. All right. Also, with 7-Star Press, I wanted to call out some of my fellow authors in the 7-Star Press family whom we have talked about here on the channel already. You can go back through the indie playlist. There's a playlist of the indie book reviews we've done here, and you'll find Stephen Shrewsbury. You'll find Carol Preflatish. You'll find Kathy Jackson. You'll find Michael Knost. You'll find John B. Pica. You'll find Tommy B. Smith. You'll find Stephen Zimmer. You'll find Carl R. Moore. And Carl R. Moore you'll find within the Enchanted Realms anthology. Oh, that was an anthology of many short novellas. There were 13. Were there 13? There were at least 13 novellas in the Enchanted Realms anthology. 7-Star Press and Jumpmaster Press did that together, and Carl R. Moore was one of the authors in it. Stephen Shrewsbury was in that too. Anyway, I did a review of that anthology with all the authors that were in it. That's where you'll find that. Okay, enough. Let us now switch over to talk specifically about Of Cogs and Conjuring. Set this out of the way. Because we did do a review of the first book, the prequel to this series, Fate and Flux. This is a steampunk adventure, is what it's called, a steampunk adventure. We did this review, I want to say it was back in early 2023. It's been a hot minute. It is here on the channel. It's in the indie playlist. You can find it there. It introduces us to Quinn, who is our main character. Now we're going to do a review and discussion of Cogs and Conjuring. This is book 1 in the Watchers of Astaria series. It's a steampunk novella. It's not very long. Let me give you the specs. The specs are copyright 2021 by Patrick Dugan. The cover is by Natanya Barron. Natanya Barron. So you can see that cover. Very nice. We're going to talk about the cover in a second. It's 138 pages. It's written in first person, which I'm not excited about first person, but it works. So it's written in first person past tense. Let me read the back cover for you. Quinn, Watcher of Astaria, has in his possession the most powerful magic in the land. The only problem is he doesn't know how to wield its power. Now that the Magi are being hunted by an unseen foe who uses ruthless predators that kill on command, can Quinn figure out his magic and defeat this elusive enemy before it is too late? What he finds may well shift the course of Astaria and possibly the whole world. Do Quinn and his fellow Watchers have enough to stop a plot that will take them across Astaria and to faraway lands? Okay, so that's kind of the plot of what's happening in this first book. Let me give you the Sandy synopsis. I wrote down here, this story takes place 6 months after the events of the prequel, Fate and Flux. Our main character is, that was the Sandy synopsis. That's all I wrote. You guys. I don't want to give away spoilers, but wow, that was, that's all I wrote down. let's dive in, shall we? Let's talk about the front cover just a little bit. Let's discuss that. The metal on his arm here, this is a prosthetic arm. In the first book, in the prequel, we had an explosion that basically ripped his arm off. And the master that Quinn was working for told the metal workers to put more alarium, which is a sort of a magic chemical, a magic item in their land, to put more alarium into an experiment. And it was more than should have been put in. And Quinn knew better, but he did it anyway because the master was telling him to, and it blew off his arm. So he blames Osarin, in with an in. He blames Usarin for his arm being blown off and for the death of many of his friends, as well he should. I mean, the guy shouldn't have ordered him to put all the alarium in there. Anyway, the alarium is a chemical that it's a substance that can be mined out of the ground, and it is what allows like the wizards and the magicians to do their spells. It is what allows magic to happen. It is the magic. It is the chemical that causes magic. Okay. Except Quinn has been gifted with magic. There is magic within him now because he has been gifted with it. And so you see how there's this light going on with his hand here. I love that little element. I love that little detail because he has magic within him now. When he uses magic throughout this book, when he's using magic, it comes from within. And when he's making things, he's a metal worker. When he's making things at a forge, when he's making things with his metal arm and the alarium in the metal arm is like working stuff, it's not imbuing the item he's making with magic until he switches over and uses his own hand. Awesome element, awesome theme, awesome idea. I love that. And he has to figure this out. And he has to figure out that his power is not coming from the alarium, that the fake magic. It's coming from within. I love that concept. Okay. So our main character is Quinn. His mentor, Roland, died 6 months ago. At the start of our story, Roland has been dead for 6 months. And Quinn has been kind of not moping, but he has been secluded. He has left himself in the treetop house, the treetop, I don't want to call it a conclave, but the home that Roland had built for himself is where Quinn now lives. He lives there with this automaton that Roland had built named Jabber, and he is learning how to use his magic, although he's not learning very well, and he's building stuff. He's adding on to treetop. He's making his own room in treetop, in like a kitchen or something, right? He's making more stuff. He's making additions to treetop. Although I get the impression treetop's pretty big, okay? Because there's one scene where he goes into Roland's old workshop, Roland's old room, and there's like his bed and some stuff, and there's like a wall that he accidentally activates, and he can like go into a secret room. I'm like, how big is this place that he can avoid this workshop? He can avoid this room because it makes him sad, right? And as it would, it makes him sad, so he doesn't go in there. But when he finally does go in there, he's able to discover like a whole nother room, like within this wing of the house. Like, this place must be large. Anyway, Quinn is having difficulty moving on after the death of his mentor, as you would, right? I mean, the guy, Roland basically saved Quinn in the prequel. He basically saved him, showed him how to build and use a mechanical arm, and was teaching him how to use magic, was helping him, was giving him direction in his life, and then was killed. So now he's gone. Poof, he's gone. So Quinn is sad. All right. But in this book, Quinn, he's starting to get sort of a crash course in how to use his magic. The other Watchers, Roland was a Watcher of Astaria. So now Quinn, because he was his apprentice, now Quinn has to be the Watcher in this region. He's been promoted. Okay. So now Quinn is the Watcher, even though he's not as experienced, you might say. He's been promoted. He's got to be the Watcher. So there are other Watchers in the world. One of them, I'm calling him Sean. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it. His name is Cian. So Sean comes to Quinn, and he's like, hey, We got to go on this adventure. We got to deal with this monster that's out of control. We need to do something about it. Okay, so Quinn goes to help, wrangle this bear. Basically, is what it is. This bear that's like on a rampage, and they figure out that someone is controlling this bear by remote control, and so they like pounce on it, and they manage to get on it and rip this thing off of it. And the thing that they rip off of it is mechanical. It's a steampunk novel. It's mechanical, and they need to figure out what this is, and they take it to various people. One of the people, let's see, did I write down her name? Hold, please. Oh, you guys, hang on. In the characters that we meet, I know I wrote her name down. Victoria Wyndham. She's also known as Lady York. She is able to like reverse engineer this thing and figure out the two chemicals that are in it. And these two chemicals are being used to sedate and manipulate and control the animals that this device is being put in. There's more than one device. There's more than one animal. There are some wolves that are being used. I mean, basically some evil foe out there is planting these devices in animals, making the animals go absolutely berserk, killing and causing mayhem and destruction. Okay. And this is not a good thing. So Quinn and Sean need to find out what's happening and solve it and fix it. Now the thing is, Sean is he was once enslaved by, I wrote it down here. He was once enslaved by the Candelarians. So he hates the Candelarians, as you would, but he can speak their language too. He can understand their language when a group of Candelarians come upon Sean and Quinn in the woods during their journey. So a kind of odd thing happens with Sean, and I'm not sure if we had this bipolar moment because Sean was a duplicitous character, or if I'm not sure. I'm not sure what was going on. But let's go to page 95. On page 95, we have a scene where Sean and Quinn are in the woods, and they have met up with this group of Candelarians, and Sean is interpreting for Quinn. And the older man, Sean, is speaking. Let's see. The older man kept grinning. I told you they were savages. I'll not break bread with these murderers. I pushed the urge to test my freeze bomb on Sean out of my mind. I pushed down the uneasy feeling that had settled over me. They don't appear to be hostile, just looking for their windwalker. Quinn, you're a fool. They would as soon murder you as spit on you. We need to leave now. Sean's voice was hot with anger. Okay, so he was just grinning and teasing Quinn, but now he's angry and calling Quinn a fool. So we have this kind of odd back and forth happening with Sean, but I think we're foreshadowing Sean's ability to switch quickly, if you know what I mean. Because later in the book, and I don't want to give away what he does, and we certainly don't know for whom he does it, but he it's like he switches sides. I mean, and you don't really know if he's switching sides or if he believes in the cause he wants to move to. Does that make sense? Does that tell you enough without spoiling what happens? Sean does not, it doesn't feel like Sean remains a watcher of Astaria. It doesn't feel like that to me. Okay. All right. We also meet a new character named Victoria Wyndham, Lady York, who we just mentioned. She is a strong female character. Now, I know when we were discussing, the indie marketplace, I mentioned that Patrick doesn't have a main character who is that strong, sarcastic bitch female woman, right? And he doesn't. Okay. Just because Victoria is a strong lady doesn't mean she's a sarcastic bitch female lead. She's not. Okay. She's a strong woman. She is older. She is a watcher of Astaria. She is, she's actually quite funny. Okay. She tells dad jokes. Okay. She gives puns. Like at the end of each scene she's in, at the end of a chapter, she will tell a dad joke. And it's actually kind of funny. Okay. And that's kind of her signature move. At the end of a scene, she tells a dad joke. She's smart. All right. But she's not infallible. There is a scene where she's getting her butt kicked. Okay. And Quinn and Victoria have to work together to save one another in one of these scenes. Okay. She's not just the strong female lead who can kick everybody's butt. She's not that. She's layered. That's what I'm trying to say. And I liked that about her. Okay, so let's talk about the theme of Cogs Conjuring. We have the theme on page 121. Let's go to page 121. And on this page, I've underlined who is talking. Victoria is talking. She traced the scars along the back of the wolf's neck with her finger. So this wolf is one of the creatures that has been implanted with this device, and they've yanked it out of it. This is a merging of flesh, magic, and technology. Whoever is behind this has an advanced understanding of things you and I are just touching on. Given enough time, they could control Astaria itself. Now, I like that. I like that a lot because, well, first of all, that's the theme. Okay, that's the big baddie that we're looking for. That's the thing that we're fighting against. Okay, that's it right there in the novel. But that magic and technology and body and flesh, that blending of these things, that is what Quinn is fighting with and working with. He's trying to merge magic and technology and flesh. He's trying to do that too, but he's trying to do it for a good purpose. So we have this external blending of the merging of flesh, magic, and technology. That's the external thing they're kind of fighting, while Quinn has the internal blending of, the flesh and the technology and magic. He's got that internal thing, but he's doing it for a good purpose. I liked that. I like that parallel yet conflict. I liked that very much. Okay. There are also some good messages going on throughout this book. Let's go to page 66 and look at one of those. In the margin here, this is a great message for helping us teach different kids in different ways. So let me read you this whole passage. As we do sometimes here in these reviews, it will give you a flavor and a feel for the author's writing style. Now, in this passage, Quinn, who is in, remember, first person point of view, Quinn is speaking to the goddess, the person who gifted him his magic. And her name, I think, is pronounced Melira, I think. Okay, right. A headache crept up my neck as my heart pounded. Would she take away the magic if I didn't master it? I felt like a child who'd been gifted a wonderful machine with nothing to tell them what it did or how to operate it. All of the parts were on the table before me, but there was no way for me to make them work. Honestly, I'd stopped trying out of frustration. I sighed. I have done everything the Archmagus has demonstrated, and nothing works. He's left me notes and practicums, and I can barely light a candle with my magic. I feel like I have failed you. Melira nodded, her eyes full of warmth and interest. Let me ask you a question. Would you put a horseshoe on a cow? My spinning thoughts halted at the unexpected question. The shock must have shown on my face, for a gentle smile graced her lips. No, of course not. Why? Horses and cows have very different hooves. Even if the shoe fit, hammering the nails in would hurt the cow. It would be cruel to the animal. Exactly. So why would you learn magic the same way Everard did? Words fled my brain. Words fled as my brain failed to produce a reason. I floundered and finally spit out, because he learned it that way, and that is how magic works. Her eyes glittered in the afternoon sun that streamed in the windows. Are all blacksmiths trained the same? I shook my head. No, my lady. Some take to it quicker or have an eye for how the metal moves under the hammer. You adjust the training to suit the student. Isn't that nice? Nice. I like that message that's coming through there. The goddess, the lady, Melira, she's explaining to him, look, you're just going to have to learn this a different way than Roland was trying to teach you. You're going to have to learn it a different way than Everard was trying to teach you. Every one of you, different, magi, you're going to have to learn it a different way. I like that. Good message. All right. There's another message on page 85 that I liked and wanted to point out to you guys. All right. Yeah. And I wrote in the margin, another good message. Okay. Quinn is talking to Jabber. Jabber is that automaton that Roland had built. Jabber, feel free to make any suggestions you find necessary. I might not agree with them, but I'd rather discuss it than miss something. A man can't see his own blind spots. And I'm just going to leave that there. That is brilliant. I really liked that. Okay, then page 111. Not a message. Oh, okay, page 111. This is not a message, but it's soothing. This is really nice. Now, Quinn, remember, he's a metal worker, okay? He knows how to work a forge. He knows how to make things out of iron and metal and tools. And so he knows what he's doing around a forge. And in one of these scenes, he goes to a town where there's a forge, and he goes up and he asks if he can, basically, if he can borrow the forge for a day. And I went to the unmanned bellows and pushed them together slowly so as not to throw sparks or impede the fire. The rhythm of the work came naturally to me after so many years of being an apprentice. It felt like I had returned home, and I felt my mind clear and focused on the task at hand. And it was just soothing. I liked that. I mean, amid all the trials and the crises and all the stuff that's going on for this poor guy, the stuff he's been going through, and he has this moment where he's like returning home. He's back to something familiar that he knows how to do, and it's soothing to him. I really like that. I identified with that. I really liked that. And it's wonderful because he's back to that, the bellows and the fire and the forge, and he's going to make something. He asks this forge master, hey, the smithy, he asks the guy, hey, can I borrow your forge for a day? And it takes some time to convince the guy that, yeah, he could do that. And so he does, and he's back home in this thing he knows how to do, and he's able to use his magic to make something there. Just a good message, good idea going on there. Okay, then what else did I want to mention about the book? One of the benefits of being an indie author for Patrick Dugan is that with this book, he was able to host or do a fundraiser. He did a Kickstarter fundraiser before publishing this book, before writing this book. And with that fundraiser, obviously he could raise funds, right? As you do with a fundraiser. But the winner of the Kickstarter fundraiser that he promoted or that he held was Laurel Ann Hill. Let me find this. Back here in the afterword, he wrote, a special thank you to Laurel Ann Hill. She was the winner of the RavenCon Kickstarter to be red-shirted in Cogs. I hope I did her proud with her death scene. And yeah, there's a death scene in here. There's an intro scene for several characters are in this little gang in one of the towns, and there's Laurel Ann Hill. Fine, great. And then there's another scene just like a couple pages later, like the next chapter, and Laurel Ann Hill dies. And first time reading through, when she dies, I was like, oh, wow, that poor character. Wow, whatever. I didn't realize that her death was because she won a Kickstarter thing to die. I thought that was clever and great. Yeah, but that's something that in the indie community we can do as indie authors. We can have these fundraisers where we ask people, hey, do you want to be at this level? At this level, you can just give us some money. We'll give you a free book at the end. Or if you want to be at this level, you can ride a dragon. If you want to be at this level, we'll kill you off. Yeah, there's different things that you can do in the indie community that are not as easy to do if you're working with a big 5 publisher and editors who would probably take that scene out where Laurel Ann Hill was killed. All right, up next in the Watchers of Astaria series is Pistols and Potion. This is book 2. It's the last one that I have. I only bought the 3 when I was at Imaginarium a few years back. I did that. I was going to buy one of the books, but Patrick had this cool thing. Let me show you. He's like a marketing machine, okay? He had these 3D printed dragons there. Look at this guy. How cute is that? Isn't this great? And I'm pretty sure that when I did my Imaginarium wrap up that year, I showed you guys this dragon before. He's just so cool. He's just a fancy little dragon. I like him a lot. He sits on my shelf over here. But if you purchase like 3 of the books, then you would get the dragon for free. I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. So now I have all 3 of these books. So I guess I should bring you Pistols and Pistons at some point. Hopefully it won't take me 2 years to get to this book. Seriously, it took me like 2 years to get back to the series. Yeah. That's what it is here at Sandy's house. You guys, thumbs up for indie books, indie reads, whether they are from an independent publishing house, published author, or a self-published author, something in between. I didn't talk about vanity presses, did I? You know, we'll talk about that another day because I'm not fond of vanity presses. I'm not fond of what they do to authors. I'm not fond of that at all. So that will be a pretty negative video when I get to it. And we don't really do negativity around here, so we might not do that. Guys, I want you all out there to share with me in the comments below an indie pubbed book that you have enjoyed, that you found fabulous and great, and what about it do you think made the author go for an independent publishing house or self-publishing? I mean, what about the book would have been too far outside the bubble for the big five? I shared with you, in this of Cogs Conjuring, we've got a main male lead. And right now there are so many books being published in, steampunk and epic fantasy and young adult fantasy. There's so many books being published in that sphere that want to focus on the strong, sarcastic bitch female. And we don't have one of those in here. That's not in here. So Patrick was too far outside of that bubble with this book. So what indie book have you read that has something that's just too far outside of the bubble? Tell me about it. Tell me what's outside the bubble. Tell me. And that's it, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in.